Hi everyone, I'm Harold Muliadi with RELATECasts. Rick Zanotti will be joining me in a moment, and we're going to show you how to create Rembrandt lighting for video. Rembrandt lighting is a lighting technique that is quite old. As the name implies, it was used extensively by the painter Rembrandt van Rijn. Here is a self-portrait that was painted by Rembrandt of himself. And you can see an example of the lighting style here. So we'll show you how to set up Rembrandt lighting, we'll talk a bit about what it's good for in video, and hopefully this helps you out for your photography, videography, or whatever else you may be using this lighting style for. In general, you'll start setting up for Rembrandt lighting by having a light placed 45 degrees to the side of where your subject is sitting and about 45 degrees vertically, so it'll be sort of above your subject as we have here. However, a lot of the fine-tuning to get it to a real Rembrandt lighting situation depends on what the shadows on your subject's face looks like. And you can see in the lighting diagram here where I have the camera pointing straight at the subject, and we have the light at about 45 degrees horizontal, 45 degrees vertical. Next, we are going to go over to Rick, who will be our subject for the lighting, and we will show you what those shadows look like. Here we are lighting Rick short using Rembrandt lighting. Rembrandt lighting is a more dramatic style of lighting, and so is short lighting. It's generally considered a little more dramatic. As you can see, it kind of thins out the features a bit, but it also tends to highlight other things like wrinkles and that sort of thing a little more. So it's considered a little more situational. It's used for interviews at times. One show that we enjoy that uses this particular style, this Rembrandt lighting lit short, is London Real interviews, and they always tend to use this style of lighting. It makes for a very dramatic and sort of impactful visual effect.
And as a model or talent, what I'm seeing right now is really just in front of me. The light's up there. I'd have to really look at it to be bothered by it. You don't really notice the light that much. There's really no light coming from there, so it's just that one light. And if you're in front of cameras all day, this is a lot less painful because it really doesn't bother you that much.
And some of the things to look for when you've set up the light correctly is, and I'll highlight it on the screen here, you see this triangular shaped patch of light on Rick's face on the far side from the light. You also notice that his eyes have visible glints, catch lights. If you're not seeing those lights, then your light is probably too high. And if you don't have that triangular shape, like if there's a bigger kind of irregularly shaped patch of light on that side of his face, then you've most likely got the light too close in front of your subject.
And by the way, there's no heat that comes at you on this side. This is the lit side. This is the darker side. There's no difference in lighting heat. Again, we're using LEDs. They're pretty cold to the touch, so you won't burn your talent to death. In the old days, when we had the big tungsten lamps or the or any other kind of lamp, frankly, until LEDs, it was pretty painful. Though we did have fluorescents, which were pretty good. They were a little warmer, but barely warm. So these are very comfortable from a talent perspective.
And next, we're going to move over to this same sort of shot, but lit broad. And that's considered a little more of a more versatile style of doing things, but slightly less dramatic. Now we have Rick lit broad. This means the light is hitting the broad side of his face. That is when your camera is off axis. That means it's not pointing straight at your subject and your subject's not looking straight at the camera. The light is on the same side as the face. This is usually considered a slightly more versatile means of lighting. It tends to flatten out features and that sort of thing. However, because there's a little less three-dimensionality to it, it's considered slightly less dramatic. As you can see, we have the same features here. We have that triangular patch of light. Now it's on the other side of Rick's face and the resulting shadow. And we have that loop shadow below his nose on the other side from the light. and that's kind of stops between the mouth and the nose. As long as it's above the mouth, that usually is good enough. And finally, we need to make sure, of course, that you have the catch lights in the eyes so that you don't have eyes that look like they're totally black inside.
Now, if I look straight at the camera, you lose a lot of the shadowing, right?
Yeah, this is an important point about Rembrandt lighting, is that it's really only set up when the subject is looking in a very specific direction. As soon as they look around, then it kind of breaks down. But you can set it up that way, and you can use it for video. It's just not going to necessarily stick to a Rembrandt lighting situation. This is another reason why it's not used as much for video, because it doesn't quite stay in place as much. It's used, well, in terms of filming, it's used a little more in cinema, because then all of the shots are very carefully composed. Next, we're going to see how this lighting situation looks when your talent is facing straight at the camera. Now we are showing, finally, what it looks like when you have Rembrandt lighting where the talent is looking straight at the camera. You get perhaps a better look at what the shapes of all of these shadows and patches of light look like. This will give you a really good idea of what to do when you're setting it up. So you want to have this patch of light on the side opposite of where the light is, the side of your subject's face opposite from the light, and next to the nose you have this sort of harsh line, and it rolls off a little softer towards the edge of the face. That's how you will set this up.
So as you can tell by all the different camera angles, it gives you as much drama or as little as you'd like. It makes the talent definitely look more interesting than just flat out lit. If I look that way, you're going to get a different light. So for here, I'm pretty well lit straight on. You'll see shadowing here now because I'm not by the camera can't see that side of the face. But if I move this way, I'm now at about 45 degrees. And then I come back this way looking at the camera, or I can look off the other way, which will give even a more dramatic shadow because one side of the face will be totally dark. So this gives you a lot of variety. One light does it all. It's a key light, a fill light, and a hair light all in one.
And the nice thing about Rembrandt lighting is that because it comes from a time before electric lights existed, it is actually a lighting style that you can set up without any electric lights. If you just have a window with sun coming through at about 10 a.m. or something like that, then you can angle your talent so that the sun is coming at them from about this angle, this roughly 45 degree from the horizon and 45 degree from their eye line angle. And you can even do this outdoors if you just angle your subject so that the sun's hitting them the right way.
And don't be afraid to shadow things. It makes for a much nicer image. It gives texture to the images. It gives a certain amount of color and feeling to it. Remember, it's all about painting with light when you come down to it. You're painting the shadows, you're painting the light. So by your angles, you're making something artistic and something more interesting, more mysterious by just changing a couple of things. Nothing else really changes other than angles and the position of the light. And that's it. It's an exciting technique, probably not used as heavily as people should, or at least it's not identified normally as this often. But the Rembrandt lighting is used quite a bit by many people, especially like Harold said earlier in cinema, because it creates a mystery, a mysterious kind of feeling, a more dramatic feeling. What are we trying to achieve? You can achieve a lot of different things with this kind of lighting to make things more interesting. And really that's it, getting people's attention, getting a viewer's attention. If somebody's watching a podcast like we're doing right now, or a tutorial, you get more of their attention. And that's it, it's simple.
We hope that this lighting style will help you in your videography, photography, whatever you're using it for. Perhaps you're just using it with your webcam when you're stuck at home, like many of us are. So,
we're right. We're doing this through COVID times. So if you watch this a month later or 200 years later, you'll know. Thanks.
All right. Thank you for joining in, and we'll see you next time on Tech Down Over.